Hey guys, in this video we're going to see if Ash's Johto rival Harrison has a good or a bad team. Let's get into it. They start with the Milk Tank, I start with the Sneasel and go right for that Fake Out, get that early flinch and damage. I then decide to switch into my Steelix, they go for the Body Press, do a nice chunk with that super effective damage. They then decide to set up some Stealth Rocks, I go for the Body Press, do a huge chunk to the cow over there. They then switch into their Gengar, I go for another Body Press, do absolutely nothing. I go back into my Sneasel, take some damage from those rocks, they go for the Shadow Ball, Sneasel resists that, get the special defense lower. They then switch into their Steelix, I go for the beat up and do barely anything 6 times. I get a lucky crit in there but still adds up to just about nothing. I go for another beat up, do the same exact thing, just trying to whittle down the Steelix, not trying to switch out right here. Get him down to about half health, he goes for the Body Press, takes out my Sneasel. My ace, the Blaziken, then decides to come in, takes a little bit of damage from the rocks. I go right for the Flare Blitz, take out Steelix. I got that nice speed boost. They then go into their Scyther, go right for that Terra Fire. I go for the Protect just to get some extra speed to definitely outspeed. I protect myself in the dual Wing Beat, get another boost. I then go for the Close Combat, one shot the Scyther. Take some damage, get another speed boost. Gengar comes back in, he instantly switches out into the Milk Tank, I go for the Flare Blitz, take out the cow. I take a little more damage, but get another boost in there. Then switch into the Pidgeot, I go for the Close Combat, one shot the bird. Get that defense lower, take a little bit more recoil, just hang on, get one last speed boost. They then switch into their Poliwrath, immediately switch into the Gengar, I go for the Brave Bird, one shot the Ghost. Blaziken finally goes down to that recoil. They then switch into their last Pokemon, the Poliwrath. I switch into my Hypno. They go for the Hypnosis, but I'm immune to that because of Insomnia. I go for the Psychic, do a nice chunk, get that special defense lower. My opponent then forfeits. Good game. At this time I ask you guys to please like, comment, share, and subscribe as it really helps with the channel. Without further ado, let's get into game 2. They start with Ladian, I start with Blaziken, go right for that Protect, eat up that Power Punch, get my speed boost. I go right for the Brave Bird, take out Ladian in one shot. I take some recoil, and then get another speed boost. Octillery then comes in, I go for another Brave Bird, he just hangs on. I take a big chunk of recoil, he goes for that Octazooka, takes out my Blaziken. I then switch into my Sneasel, go for that Fake Out, get a nice chip damage, get him to flinch. I then go for the beat up just to clean up the Octopus, take him out. Heatmore then decides to come in. I decide to switch into my Houndoom expecting the fire move. He goes for that Fire Lash, I get that Flash Fire boost. I go for the Dark Pulse, do a little bit by half. He goes for a Drain Punch, that's a huge chunk, it's almost all of his health back. Go for another Dark Pulse, do another good chunk, but he's able to go for the Drain Punch and take out my Houndoom. I then decide to switch into my Kecleon. I go for that Fake Out, get a nice bit of chip damage on him. He flinches. I go for the Sucker Punch, turn into that Dark type with the Protean, take out the Heatmore. We then get the best mirror match of all time, Kecleon v Kecleon. I go for that Terra Ghost, I'm now immune to that Power Up Punch. He does nothing. I go for my own Power Up Punch, get a little attack boost. Get some leftovers back. He goes for the Shadow Sneak, gets that super effective damage. I go for my own Shadow Sneak, do a little bit back. He goes for a Sucker Punch, that's a huge chunk to me. I go for that Power Punch because I'm just trying to boost my attack up all the way. Go for that Shadow Sneak, he just hangs on. His Sucker Punch fails. He goes for another Shadow Sneak, I just hang on. I go for a Shadow Sneak, he just hangs on. I'm then able to go for the Sucker Punch and take out his Kecleon. My opponent then switches into the Darmanitan. I go for the Shadow Sneak, get a nice chunk of damage. He goes for the Flame Charge, takes me out and gets that speed boost. He then transfers into that Zen mode. I switch into my Sneasel. He decides to switch into his Volbeat. I go for that Fake Out, get a nice bit of chip damage. He gets some lefties back. Goes for that T-Wave, but I'm immune to my Dark typing. Go for the Triple Axle. Do a little bit with each hit, get him down to about half health. I go for another Triple Axle, do a nice little chunk, but he just hangs on. He goes for that Bug Buzz, does a huge chunk right back to me. I go for one more Triple Axle. 1, 2, 3. Finally take out the Volbeat. His last Pokemon is in the Darmanitan. He goes for that Terra Fire. I go for the beat up, do a little bit to him. Activate his Select Berry, he gets that speed boost and he just hangs on. He goes for the Flame Charge, gets another speed boost, takes out my Sneasel. He goes back into his Zen mode. I then switch into my Steelix. He goes for that Fire Blast, takes out Steelix in one shot. My last Pokemon is then the Hypno. He goes for the Fire Blast, completely whiffs. I go for that Nightshade, take out the Darmanitan. Good game. Alrighty, let's get into the last one, Game 3. I start off with Steelix, they start off with the Blaziken. They go right for that Will-O-Wisp, get that burn on me. I go for the Earthquake, get a critical hit, take out Blaziken in one shot. I take a little bit of damage from the burn. He then switches into his Gyarados, intimidates my Steelix. I immediately switch into my Hypno. He goes right for that Dragon Dance, gets those boost. He fires off a Waterfall, does a huge chunk, but Hypno just hangs on. I give him that Toxic, giving him that bad poison. He takes some damage, goes for another Waterfall, takes out my Hypno. I go into my Sneasel now. I go right for that Fake Out, get a little bit of chip on him. He flinches, takes a little bit more damage from the poison. He goes for the Stone Edge, takes out Sneasel in one shot. That toxic damage is starting to rack up now. I then go into my Kecleon, go for another Fake Out, he just hangs on, but I'll finally take him out due to the poison damage. He then goes into his Jirachi, goes for that Body Slam, does a nice chunk with the crit to Kecleon. I go for the Power Up Punch, turn into the Fighting type, get my boost. I go for the Sucker Punch, do a huge chunk to Jirachi, but he just hangs on. Goes for the Zen Headbutt, takes out my Kecleon. I go back into my Steelix. He goes for the Meteor Mash, does absolutely nothing to me, gets an attack boost. I go for the Earthquake, take out Jirachi. He then goes into the Tapu Fini, gets that Misty Surge up. I immediately switch into my Houndoom. He goes for the Scald, does a huge chunk, Houndoom just hangs on. I'm able to go for the Sludge Bomb, do about half. He goes for another Scald, takes out my dog. I decide to go back into the Steelix. He goes for Nature's Madness, that's a nice chunk to me. I go for the Heavy Slam, he just hangs on. Take a little bit of damage from the burn. He goes for a Scald, takes out my Steelix. My last Pokemon is in the Blaziken. I go for that Protect just to get the speed boost. He activates the Z Crystal, goes for the Guardians of Alola, breaks right through my Protect and does a nice chunk to me. I get my speed boost. I then go for the Flare Blitz, take out Tapu Fini. I take some damage and get another speed boost. He then goes into his Victini. I go for the Terra Flying Brave Bird, he just hangs on. I take a huge chunk of recoil. He goes for the Scorching Sands, but now I'm flying, does nothing. I get another speed boost. I then go for the Close Combat, take out the Victini. I take a little bit more damage, get one more speed boost, but it doesn't matter, he forfeits. Good game. And that's the video. Please let me know what you guys think of the team down below and stay tuned for future content. Peace!